P2P privacy, is it also easy to install wiretaps in peer-to-peer networks so that there is no privacy at all?
Did you hear that?
No, it was too muffled. I think the codec is doing a little bit too much compression.
Okay.
Could you talk and repeat it?
Yeah, this gentleman is asking is it that easy to wiretap conversation on the internet? Is it that easy that we are talking?
Yes. Yeah, it's done in a, it's done differently. You know, if you look at the public switch telephone network, the easiest place to wiretap is at the phone company, at the switch. So you typically don't wiretap near the endpoints. You wiretap in the middle at the phone company, at the switch. But that's easy to do for governments because they can just go in and ask for it, and the phone company will give it to them. But it's not easy to do for criminals because they don't have access to the phone company. But with the internet, it's a different topology. And so, because the internet is this cloud, and the packets take different pathways through the cloud, it's more difficult to wiretap anywhere in the middle because you don't know where the pathway is for the packets. But it's easier to wiretap near the endpoints, and that's easy to do by, for example, imagine if you work in an office with 1,000 PCs, and one of those PCs is infected with spyware. Not your PC, but somebody else's PC. Maybe they're on another floor above yours or something like that. And this spyware is specially designed to intercept the net traffic on the local network, including VoIP traffic. And it can record the VoIP conversation onto the disk. You can store it as a WAV file. And later on, somebody on the other side of the world, using a web browser, can reach into that PC that's infected and review all the phone calls that it's intercepted and captured. So the people that are wiretapping you don't even have to be in your country. They could be on the other side of the world. They could be working for a foreign government. They could be the Russian mafia. They could be anyone. And do it from the other side of the world. I mean, this is very different from somebody coming to your country with alligator clips to attach to the copper wires outside your office. They don't have to get a visa to come into your country. They don't even have to get an airplane ticket. All they got to do is get the spyware to infect a computer. Not even your computer, but one of the other computers in your office. Now, of course, there are some countermeasures you could do. There are different ways of doing network topologies in your office that could reduce the risk of this. But not everybody's going to do that. And you know, how many police departments are going to have not quite the smartest IT department? You know, so you could have a police department that's being wiretapped by the Russian mafia.
Yeah.
Imagine what that would mean, you know, for learning the names of witnesses or informants.
That's scary.
Or what would happen if they listened to the prosecutor calling his wife at home to talk about what time to pick up his kids at school?
I see. I have a tricky question for you. You're not obliged to answer. We have some people here from the content copyright management that would be very interested if your protocol could be used to hide illegal downloading on the internet.
Well, you know, there already are a great many protocols that encrypt transmission of data. You know, there's SSL or TLS. There's IPsec. You know, there's custom built protocols for BitTorrent, you know, that can encrypt things. I don't think we need to use a protocol designed for VoIP for that purpose.
So
this protocol is especially designed for voice over IP, voice and video over IP. And so I think it's probably not the best choice for using it for DRM.
Right. And in your opinion, generally speaking, do you think it's possible to check if some people are downloading forbidden content on the internet, or you think it's impossible technically?
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's things that you can do, and there's countermeasures, and then there's countermeasures. Depends on how much resources you want to apply. I mean, you could have traffic analysis, for example, that could try to figure out what you're doing. But you know, you can encrypt the channel and make it impossible to tell just from looking at the channel exactly what the content is. But that's not the whole story. I mean, what problem are you trying to solve?
The idea here, and it's a big debate in France, is to try to forbid, or at least to minimize the illegal downloading, like music or movies on the internet, which we are, I guess, a world record in the world for something which is the illegal downloading here. So they try to enforce the law, and thus the debate was here, is it possible to control that flow or not?
Well, you know, I think without so much talking about the downloading process, let's talk about the protection of music and video and things like that, to protect content. It's really not possible to protect content, digital content, against a determined attacker, because at some point you have to play the music, and it can be recorded and captured again. Or you have to render the film on the screen, and it can be captured from the screen. You know, you're trying to, the traditional architecture of cryptography is you want to have a secure communications channel between Alice and Bob, and you want to prevent someone from eavesdropping. And that's very easy to do with cryptography. But when you try to send a message out to 10 million people, and you don't want, and you're trying to protect against one of those people, one of the 10 million people, from making a copy, it's a completely different problem, and I don't think that it's possible to do it. At some point, you have to convert it back to plain text in order to render it for the user to see or listen to. And at that point, it can be captured. I think that other methods are going to have to be used. I think it's going to have to use different business models and to try to create different cultural expectations. You know, 25 years ago, there was a lot of copying of software back in the days of floppy disks, and they developed ways to make copy protection on floppy disks, but everybody hated that. And over the years, you know, we created cultural expectations to make it so that there was less stealing of software. And businesses today don't steal very much software compared to what they did 25 years ago. And so I think that we need to change the cultural expectations. We need to try to get people to understand that if they want to see, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet on the Titanic, somebody's going to have to spend $100 million to make that film, and you can't get investors to put that $100 million in if you're going to steal the movie. You know, I think this is a bigger problem for films than it is for music, because music can be made rather inexpensively.
Right.
You can get a band together and you can cut an album for a few $1,000s or a few €1,000. It's easy to do. It doesn't cost very much to do it. But to make a film, you can easily spend $100 million.
Yeah,
and so we're just not going to be able to continue making expensive films if people steal them.
Yeah, that's the issue. Anyway, thank you, Phill. We are out of time. We are very honored, and it was a great pleasure to have you. And I guess that the people can make an applause for you.
I'd like sometime to come back and give a talk for real. This is not a very good way to do a talk.
Next time, we plan to invite you for real here in France.
For the Atena forum group.
Right. For the
Okay.
next group. Take care, Phill. It was a great pleasure.
Sure.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.